Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Whiskey Neat, spirited conversations with interesting people. I am your host, Christopher Hart. This week's episode, I'm not going to say all the stuff I normally say every week. I'm not going to do it. I will tell you this. Many years ago, as the Facebook world had developed and has grown in the way that it has, and the way that barrel picks have grown, there was a guy in San Antonio that ran a bar that was doing a crazy amount of barrel picks. And eventually those bottles ended up on shelves all across the state because that bar couldn't bring in the total amount of the barrel, which is normal. A bar restaurant will do a barrel pick. They can't move the whole thing, so it gets out to retail. And that's why you'll see things on shelves at Specs or mom and pop stores. There were all these barrels that said Christopher Ware on it. And the whole bourbon community on Facebook was like, who the is Christopher Ware? Who is this guy? And today is that story. Today we invite Christopher Ware on, who now works for Seersucker Gin. He's based out of San Antonio, so he flew in specifically for this and in this market. And my good friend Mike Salopek. Now Mike works for NASA, and he's been on the show before, and I erroneously said that he's the second NASA guy. He's actually the third guy that works for NASA. NASA being the National Aeronautics Space Alliance, whatever the hell NASA means. You know what I'm talking about. The real NASA. Pasha was first. It was episode 1. Steve Platts was like episode 10. Phenomenal guy. In charge of getting humans to Mars. I encourage you to go back and watch the Balcones episode with Steve Platts or the first episode with Pasha Morchetti. Mike works in the vehicle division for rovers, right? So stuff that ends up on space stations or on Mars that actually moves forward and gathers samples. We didn't talk a lot about it because we got kind of caught up on everything else, but Mike's a good friend of mine. He's been around a long time. He's in HBS. He's just a phenomenal guy. And so we had him back on the show today to talk about our upcoming barrel picks of Copper and Kings, the Armagnac barrel that we just recently did, and of course these fantastic gins from Seersucker. I will say this. For those of you listening thinking, oh God, another gin episode, I will say this. And I talk about this at length in this episode. It drives me friggin' nuts how people say I only drink bourbon or I only drink scotch or I don't branch out of my comfort zone or blah, 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 blah. Stop it. Stop it. Drink. There's a reason why spirits, every category, has been around for hundreds of years. It's because it's worth visiting, it's worth acclimating to, it's worth finding an appreciation of. And there are so many great spirits out there, even those that are not in a barrel, that deserve your attention, except for vodka. Vodka can die. But I will say this. This particular vodka from Seersucker is hilarious. I love the idea. I think it's fantastic. Gin being the original flavored vodka, I have an appreciation for. So, the Whiskey Social, definitely www.houstonwhiskeysocial.com. Tickets are on sale. Tickets are going well. The rodeo's coming, so get your tickets while you can. Our shirts and glassware for this show are available at mywhiskeyneat.com. Please rate and review on on iTunes and all your other podcast platforms, which, by the way, I didn't tell you this, but I got a notification that we have ended up on some charts. This podcast ended up on some charts. You want to know what those charts are? We are now currently ranked number 264 in Poland, of all places. Not America. In Poland. For social culture something or other. So thank you for my Poland listeners. And I actually pulled it up and looked on our analytics. We have a 4.9% Poland audience, which is bullshit? Oh, holy shit. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You got to censor out that. Yeah. thank you to my Poland listeners. Like that's amazing. I didn't even know that was possible. So, this has been fun. We're working on some upcoming sponsors that will allow us to go mobile. And that's my goal, is I'd like to go to cigar lounges and travel and interview these people that are fascinating, spirited conversations with interesting people. And thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. So I'm not going to say without further ado, but without proceeding further, Mike Salopek from NASA and Christopher Ware from Seersucker Gin. Cheers. Chris.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, I'm excited to have you. One, because I don't know what I expected you to look like. We're Facebook friends. But you have a much more seasoned, great hair look to you than I expected. I expected a...
I'm the supplier version of Michael McDonald.
Sure. I kind of expected something like Mike, right? So Mike has got this youthful look to him that's just classic early in your career ambassador look. Yeah. Uh-huh. You have a seasonedness to you that's it's good. It looks good on you. You've got
that's life, just beating you down, but not taking any punches.
All the gray's good, right? So as long as you can keep your hair, I would love gray hair. As long as there's hair involved, I'm losing it. So.
I'm not going to lose any of it. I think it's just going to keep going this way.
It's like a Clooney thing. You got kind of a Clooney thing, a seasoned Clooney, Brad Pittish.
I will take that, and if I can take 700 billion, I'll take that as well.
I'm with you 100%. So I actually brought quite a few things here. I know you're the brand rep of Seersucker Gin. Have we talked gin on the show yet?
I don't think so.
I don't. We might have talked gin on the show. By the way, Jack, can you get the timer going? We might have talked gin on the show. I'm almost positive we have, but I wanted you on for a couple reasons. So we met online because of one particular thing that you did early in your career. So everyone knows that in the bourbon world, the barrel pick is the gem, right? With allocations happening right now with Pappy and this and that, it's unless you're spending a shit ton of money with a store, unfortunately it's a battle to get the allocated stuff. So the hope in life is a really good barrel pick. Mm-hmm. And before barrel picks became all the rage in Houston, there were all of these barrel bottles floating around from Wild Turkey, with your name on it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Christopher Ware for this place or Christopher Ware. It was just specially selected by Chris Ware. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, what in the hell is this about? Who is this guy? No one's ever heard of him. What's going on?
Everyone liked it.
Well,
I feel like I missed out on something.
I remember specifically Jarrett Liddell. We've got like this group chat with Jarrett Liddell and Jay Friedman and Evan Staber with the Bourbon Hounds. And they weren't the first people to send it to me, but they were the most memorable conversation I had on you was before we met, was this conversation. And Jarrett had reached out to you, I think, independently and was like, hey, what's up with these?
Yeah.
And tell us the backstory on that.
Well, at the time
Sorry. Let's pour something first.
Hey, I like that.
So
I just want to interject.
Okay.
So the Facebook page, just that alone, thank you for moderating that. That is a feat.
Oh, are you in HBS?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's
oh my
God.
Of a
nightmare.
The stuff you put up with on that show. So if anyone's listening at home, you're all going to hell.
I still contest it's for the greater good. Like the effect that it has on the industry is overwhelming. But it's a what's the word? An endeavor of love. It's like being married, where there's a labor of love. Yeah. So let's start with this. So this is our Space Cowboy Armagnac. Armagnac, as you know, is a really slow-moving category for most people. But the bourbon world is in love with Lincantata. And this is our 18-year-old Armagnac from La Fraiche. We did this, and I actually finally heard my first negative feedback about it was from Gabriel. Yeah, he wasn't into it, but he's also an Armagnac drinker. Okay. Grape whiskey is a different beast altogether, but it's very similar in a lot of ways.
Very. I've been seeing this like pop up all down the feed, and it's definitely piqued my interest because at one point, my last bar that I had, one of the sections was entirely a brandy-focused venture.
Oh, cool.
Sure.
And we had about 400 SKUs of just different Armagnacs and brandy.
That's incredible.
That was a
Yeah.
number of years ago, too, right?
Mhm. So that was back in 2015.
Wow. Okay.
And
we did that
what was
guy.
the name of the place?
It was called Paramore.
Okay,
I almost don't put it on my resume anymore,
Sure.
just to of how it's been.
It went downhill.
Changed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it hasn't. It's just different.
Yeah.
That's just different. Different ethos, different way of approaching it, different way like the cocktail program went, and so.
Well, we've talked about this on the show too. There's this thing that happens in the whiskey or in the bar world where you can have a passion and a focus or an idea for a bar, but then when you start the bar, you do have this conflict of we can make so much more money doing it this way, but you kind of lose that niche audience that a lot of bars have maintained. And I say a lot. There's really not that many overall. Relatively speaking, most bars, respectfully, are shit.
Yes.
So a lot of, I remember in particular, there's this great guy locally. He actually lives down the street from me, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but he handled the bar program for Cullen's here in Houston.
Okay.
He's very well known, and for some reason I know him. He dated my sister-in-law too. Please forgive me. He handled Cullen's bar program and opened a new concept in Seabrook, the Volcano Room.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And the goal was a similar thing, to do like what Lalo is, like great rums, great whiskey. And the passion behind that was there. But then when you open the bar, you're like, we can make so much money on shots of vodka or this or whatever. And so that concept didn't maintain its original vision.
Yeah. And my wife and I, we used to go there a lot when they first opened because it was great to have like a little tiki bar. And then it kind of, when they started shifting concepts, and then of course, like with Rosewater opening up, we were like, well,
and see, Rosewater,
this is more like what we're looking for down here. So.
Rosewater stayed steadfast. Posh has done a great job.
Yeah.
They have caved in on a few things. Like they originally, when I first talked to him early on, the rumor was that the bar wasn't going to carry any vodkas. But you have your regulars that come in and they do enjoy this or enjoy that, but then
Vodka pays the bills.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the end of the day.
Money.
So
water.
I mean, if you're not serving vodka or Crown Royal from some part in a liquor store, if you're a retailer, you don't carry those in Texas, you're not making money.
Right.
That's just the Texas rule. Now, that's different in every demographic.
especially in College Station.
Oh, my God.
I
Yeah,
know
I
some
mean,
people doing 100
anywhere
cases of
where-
Tito's a week.
yeah. Anywhere where, like, people are talking about Cowboys, Crown Royal, and
Crown
Tito's.
Royal.
Pull out your dual pistols.
Even though it's
start
that
shooting in the air.
Canadian stuff.
Talk about marketing.
Yeah.
But I mean, the world of, being on this side, going from bar to brand and seeing how there's so much marketing in all these products. And I mean, I'm guilty of it as well with certain things I do, but I try to be as forthcoming as possible. Like, actually, I'm completely forthcoming. I'm like almost transparent, where we want people to, it's part of the joke. It's part of the allure. It's part of the mystique that you're trying to build and get people to understand.
So
But when we jump back to like the barrels that we were talking about, mine was more when you have a money guy and you have and he's going for a certain aesthetic and I'm going for an aesthetic. The product wasn't being dumbed down at all, but it was like almost like an argument of like how he wanted like the cocktail service to dress a certain way. And I agree with that too. But then when you're arguing over something that finicky, the relationship is, past what it should be. And so you step back, you have to reassess, and then you either can fix the relationship or you move on. And that's the way of how it kind of ended up happening. And I think, the money speaks for itself, where it went from doing $300,000 a month to where it is now.
Sure.
That kind of
So going back to what you were essentially head of the cocktail program, and your goal, you had a specific goal in mind with these whiskeys.
Yeah. And they were all very supportive about that, because it was extremely unique in the fact that so everyone has barrels, and they want to do barrel cocktails and things like that, and everyone's doing barrel choices. It's first coming out. When I was the whiskey guardian, as they called us, for Angel's Envy, when that whiskey first launched in 2011, I was actually the first one for Texas. And the barrels came about 2 years after that, where they wanted pick your barrel, choose your expression.
They did away with that program too.
They did.
Yeah, I remember very much liking the one that NASA did.
Yeah, that one was really good.
And I was very saddened to see Angels Envy to stop doing that program. But I think sometimes these brands kind of they get in before their time, and they will try something and do away with something before it's ready. Yeah. And then now, if they were to do it, I think it would be very well received compared to the way it was 3 years ago.
Come back. I mean, Wes with Angels Envy. I mean, he pretty much has that. He understands what his dad wanted, and he's a product of his dad. And his sons are now there in the distillery, and they know what's really going on. They understand about juice allocations, and then all these different aspects for people want to buy their own whiskey and then resell it. And
Sure,
they're tied into the community,
right?
They will Bacardi. I think with them being purchased by Bacardi, they had to take a step back as well and look at what was making money, what was making physical sense, and I believe they will bring it back. But it'll just be a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think it'll go up in price too.
It definitely will.
If you notice, they just released that sherry cask, which I'm a fan. I've always been a fan of Angels Envy. I've given them constructive feedback about their cask strength offering. The jump in price from their standard offering to cask strength offering is so exorbitant that it that's my only feedback. The product itself, I've enjoyed. I have no problem, and I really loved NASA's barrel pick. Their private blend, little micro batch blend.
Their blend was cool. There was a blend by I can't remember the bar group in Dallas, and it was just spectacular. Yeah. It was very, very, very good.
Well, I didn't. Going back to, I didn't know that you were in HBS. I mean, I knew that you were based in San Antonio.
I'm like the creepy silent partner. That like looking in voyeur.
A lot of brands are.
Yeah.
You don't want to get into arguments. You don't want to. What I've noticed. There's two types of brand ambassadors. There's people who started off not in the industry or in a role in the industry to which you can be an enthusiast and you can chime in and say stuff and not worry about your job. And then when you transition into like an ambassador role, it doesn't inhibit your behavior. Like Nicholas Talamantes. Yeah. I love Nick, but Nick as a distributor joined the group as a fan, and so he could get into the banter and the arguing or the disagreements or whatever. And then when he became the head of Four Roses for Houston, he's like, no, I'm still Dick. I'm gonna do me. Like there was no. Whereas other people, when they join the group and they're already an ambassador, a lot of them do what you do and kind of lurk and kind of watch and just kind of see the impact and see some of the negatives.
If I sold whiskey, I think I'd be much more involved and I would have to chime in on a lot of people as well. Yeah, but I'm also like, I'm the supplier that goes in and I'll go and pitch myself to bars and restaurants. A restaurant can almost like drop their steak in front of me and I would sit there, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. How about the menu placement?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's looking at it from like two different angles, but on a podcast, it's full open. Like when I did like Mike G's, we just talked about everything. No hold barred.
Huge Mike G fan.
Yeah, he's fun.
So I've talked about Mike G several times on the show, and I don't know when his podcast started, but he's like at episode 260 or something. So crazy amount. And he is, I think he's the ideal consumer. I don't know what his background is job-wise, but he drinks everything. He's got a huge fascination with mezcal, but other spirits. So like where we are, we do have our lanes that we love, but he likes to branch out of his comfort zone. Yeah, which is, I think, is the where everyone should strive to be. If you're listening to this, if you take any merit in anything I say, strive to be versatile in spirits. There's so many fantastic things out there, especially sitting on this table. I'm excited to try through a few things.
I mean, just look at it like, when I first started drinking whiskey, I was like, what is this crap, right? Like it burned. You're taking a shot of Jack or Jim Beam at like in college or whatever, and you didn't like it. I avoided spirits for a long time. And then as I got older, beer started to disagree with me if I had more than a couple. And
it's so filling too.
Yeah. And then, my wife and I started going out to cocktail bars and trying different things. And then, you start with a sweeter drink, and then you maybe move toward more spirit forward. And then pretty soon you're just like, just give me the whiskey in the glass. It's fine. And then,
I mean, I'm with you 100%. It bothers me how, like, even with food, when someone says they don't eat tomatoes, it kind of makes me goddamn furious that an adult can be picky. You can say goddamn on the radio, right?
Nope. You can say damn.
Not. Yeah. Did you see my note about butthole?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you said lower G, God. That's fine.
Say it again.
You said lower G God, and so that's fine.
Oh, yeah,
in Texas, lower G God.
Oh, they'll censor God, but not damn. Right. That's what'll happen on the radio, which is
my
so
wife's gonna punch me in the face for this.
Stupid, bizarre. Why, being on here and me saying that?
No, me saying it.
Oh, yeah,
When I say it.
Oh,
it's just I put the note on Facebook about I did a real ESPN show last week, and I found out I couldn't say butthole on camera or on radio. I can call you a butthole, but I can't refer to my own. Which is so crazy.
Yeah,
but
I just learned about a Richard pick.
Yeah, that's right.
That was amazing.
That was awesome.
What do you mean?
A Richard pick.
Richard pick.
Yeah.
Tricky dick.
Yeah. I'm following you.
Yeah.
But is it a barrel pick called? No. Or are you just saying?
Oh my God, that would be a great barrel pick.
You said you just
that
heard.
would be an awesome.
I'm having a hard time believing that you're just now discovering
Richard pick.
Yeah.
The term.
No, the term Richard
specific
pick.
term Richard pick.
Yeah, but
we're not talking about the actual.
The act of.
We know that.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
That's out there.
I thought you were saying you didn't know what.
No, so the ESPN guys out here, when they're like trolling their consumers that are on their own Facebook page, they're like, we're referring to that. Oh, this guy just sent us a Richard pick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's that?
That's how you can say it on the radio.
So, if anyone knows, I am 37, and this is why.
Well,
that's
today I learned.
That's what's so fascinating about the show is before every break, Fred and AJ mention their phone number. Text in, call in, say something to us. And it's like a cell phone. How are you not just constantly getting the worst photos that are on the internet?
Wow.
Like if I was a troll, and there's a lot of
I would rush in and spot that.
I would be, can we... At our next break, I'm going to find out what Fred and AJ's phone number is. I'm going to give it to you. Please send the worst photos you find on the internet.
Oh, no.
Now, their show is from, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.?
Oh, no. This is
4 to 7. 4 to 7 p.m. Okay, so...
What have you done, you monster?
A call to action.
This is great. And your best memes. I want your memes.
No. Just your worst things you can find on the internet. I'm talking...
you just get to burn those photos.
Oh, God.
Birthing photos or just whatever you can find. They're great guys, but they've trolled me enough that I would love to inspire just a scotch of trolling on their phone line while they're on air. Okay, so I just got the phone number. The phone number for ESPN is 713-780-3776, 713-780-ESPN. Please send your most heartfelt photos of the worst things you can find on the internet to Fred and AJ. Tell them it's from Whiskey Neat and your friend Christopher Hart, and we'll go from there. This is going to be amazing, and I'm super excited about it. Anyways, have you tried the almond yet?
Yeah, we were just over here talking about. We were doing our entire flavor wheel
the
that
flavor
you get
wheel
from the CSS.
Yeah,
and it now just hit me how much that has changed in the decade it's been out.
The flavor wheel?
The CSS, like how people like throw it out there, like a certified specialist experience.
Oh,
they use it's like like people have like a WSET or
and
the sommelier courses, all that fun stuff, and people that throw that out to you, like trying to say, "Oh, this is my."
I've seen it on a lot of business cards.
Oh yeah,
and it always gives me a stroke.
The CSS, dot CSW dot WSET2 dot.
Wow.
Sure.
I mean, might as well. Just make up whatever you want.
Alphabet soup afterwards.
Yeah.
The first
Cicerone.
time that's what I was about to say. The first time I heard the word Cicerone, I wanted a
Cicerone.
It's a beer
sommelier.
Sommelier.
This is like social media influencer, like a obnoxious.
Super obnoxious, right? So the term, but there's different levels of Cicerone, and we were working on a beer.
I hate that word already.
Right. So we were working
on 3 levels
on a beer design for our upcoming beer release, and I approached a comedy group that I admin on Facebook, and there's this girl out of California, and she's like, "Oh, I love beer." I was like, "Oh, great." She's like, "I'm a Cicerone level 2 or something," and I thought, "Oh yeah, cool." And then I was like Googling what's Cicerone. I'm like, "Oh, it's a beer thing. It's a all right."
Wow, she threw that out there. So she took the online exam. That's Cicerone 1.
Okay,
and then she took this. I think it's 60 minutes or 60 questions. I forget. I haven't looked at it in 4 years.
God.
Now, the highest level, I mean, it is difficult, and I understand all of the nuances that go into it and learning the different hops, the different malts, the different ways of...
This is as gross as the guy in your office who always gives women shoulder massages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how gross that is.
He's a high school teacher doing the shoulder massage.
Yeah, just like, "Hey, how you doing?" But it's always to girls, and it's always some shaved head, bald guy that, I work with a guy that his last name is Boehner, which is... spelled awfully close to something else that he and he's always touching women on the shoulders.
Why am I envisioning Ted Bundy right now? Maybe because that's all everyone's talking about.
That's
Ted
right.
Bundy was attractive, right? I think he was a good-looking guy.
No, my wife keeps saying that. She's
Yeah,
like, Ted Bundy was hot.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
Netflix
what are you
special.
saying? You want me to get a Volkswagen?
Yeah.
Drive around?
You want me to murder your dead body?
Come on. What's your safe word? Don't kill me.
What do you think of the Armagnac? I'm
Pleasantly surprised.
I'm so.
It's really good.
The cash strength, no added color, no added anything, just give you a raw product straight from the barrel is definitely my idea of good Armagnac. And I hope that we continue to jump down this rabbit hole because 18-year-old bourbon now,
Oh my goodness.
250,
Yeah.
$300. 18-year-old cask strength Armagnac.
$60.
Well, in this case, it's 175, but we have talked to both the supplier and found an alternate importer if necessary. They don't have an exclusionary contract with PM. Although Nicholas Palazzi's great, I'd rather go through them, but I'm trying to find ways to get that cost down to closer to 120.
Yeah.
And if we did, we could do 3-4 barrels of this a year.
Yeah.
Like we could just pump these freaking Armagnac barrels out left and right. It's an expensive thing to import spirits. So
Yeah, I have a couple of birth year Armagnacs from 85, and they were like $120.
And
right?
see,
and for 30 you can't find anything 30 years old for anywhere near that price.
Certain liquor stores, and that's the thing, is like everyone in the secondary market's going out there and trying to pilfer all the whiskey and sell whiskey, and they're leaving all these gems of Armagnacs behind.
God.
You can pick up a 1940 Armagnac, maybe
or Old Dusty
3.5.
Tequila.
Oh my
Old
god!
Dusty Tequila is
yeah.
fantastic.
If anyone out there has an Old Dusty bottle of Chinaco, please hit me up. Like Chinaco, I'm talking from the 80s. Chinaco.
Sure.
That stuff, or I mean, oh my god!
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, which is why I always tell you strive to like all spirits. It and I skimmed over this a little bit, but it drives me up the wall when an adult, like I work with a guy who doesn't drink coffee and doesn't drink alcohol, and he's like 40, and I'm like,
Looks like a baby.
yeah, dude, him and his wife are famous for being picky eaters.
Why am I imagining the couple from Christmas Vacation then right now?
Oh,
next
yeah.
door?
I don't know, Margot.
So I remember one day she ordered a BLT and got back and flipped out. I mean, she was screaming. She was angry. I said, "What's the matter?" She goes, "There's no burger on this." I was like, "You ordered a BLT." She's like, "Yeah, that means burger, lettuce, and tomato." I was like, "No, it doesn't. It means bacon." Like they have such a limited experience as adults with food, and they don't drink alcohol, and it's not a religious thing. They just don't like it. They don't think it tastes good. They don't like coffee. I'm like, I'm blocking you on Facebook. We can't be friends.
We can't be.
I don't understand what's happening right now. So, but look, let's get to Seersucker Gin. So, I have recently, over the past year and a half, jumped into the gin category. We got glasses. We got fancy glasses.
Oh.
These were highly expensive. Now, this is vodka based.
That works. Thanks.
The vodka based gin thing where
compound gin.
Sweet.
I mean, if you look at it this way, like all gin itself is
Pretty
really
much,
just the original flavored vodka.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's what I said on Facebook recently. I caught some shit for it.
Oh,
Really?
well, people are always going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
For speaking truth.
Then that's when they should send us their cell phones and we can put it online.
Now, is this a mix between you talking about doxing people, like putting their stuff out their personal info out there? A mix between stuff that's added at maceration process or gin basket versus added afterwards?
No, there's gin basket and there's different other ways of making it.
Sure.
This is going to be compound style. There's a lot of compound style gins in the market as well.
That's
so
right.
it's
We
pretty
had
much
Avanac on it.
you're
What
making
is compound again?
compound style is like after the fact you're making your distillate and you're making essentially vodka.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to send it over to blending, and then that's when you're going to add in your
maceration.
Okay, yeah, maceration.
Yeah, maceration, and then they redistill it with the botanicals in the vodka.
You can either do that way, or you can
The
just add
basket.
it in after the fact and blend it in.
What do you, when you say add what in exactly?
Like your juniper, your cardamom, your coriander, your orange.
The flavoring or the actual
the flavor.
Okay, so you're blending in after the fact.
Mhm.
It's like a tea, like kind of like you're steeping tea, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's the gin basket method as well.
Yeah, the gin basket method. There's also when you're distilling, you can put it in the column itself as the distillate comes through the column. It's taking on the nuances of everything's there.
Lots of citrus.
Yeah, I was about to say, got a lot of citrus.
A lot of citrus.
It's actually why I brought this Macallan today. Shout out to Elise Bleckman. I'm really digging citrus notes on spirits lately. The bright, especially as we get towards the hotter months, right?
Yeah.
This has got a lot of citrus in it.
So what this was, we actually created Southern style. That was an entire method of doing it. And what it is, it's, looked at by light juniper, citrus, and, clove honey. So clove honey kind of acts as like the binding agent of everything. And as you smell it, it's actually going to go across your palate the same way. You're going to have orange and lemon up front, then it goes to clove honey.
This is actually pretty...
I almost get a little mint. Yeah,
juniper,
mint.
cardamom, coriander. About 1 in 10 people, I think,
mint leaf
will almost get anise. And it's like their palate tricking them. Kind of how some people think that cilantro tastes like soap.
Right.
Some people will actually think that they get anise off this, which I think is perfect because I like anise, but not everyone does. But it'll come back and kind of come across your palate. So it works very well for mixing. I almost think of it as like an amplifying style. Anything you mix it to is just going to amplify whatever you take it with.
So I'm always hesitant when I don't mind being honest with whiskey brands, but I feel like I don't know enough about. I'd say I know quite a bit about rum, but even then, like ryes or gins, I can taste something and enjoy it, but I'm almost hesitant to say that I love it because I don't know what people like Pasha, who have this really experienced gin palate, what they would think.
You don't want to be judged.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me this tastes fantastic. I could drink this straight. It's got kind of a citrusy lemonade note that is very apparent.
It's very, very drinkable.
It makes a great,
which is
Hoffenhaus martini. So the 1890s style where it's
I will tell you, it kind of
gin,
irritates
vermouth, orange bitters.
It irritates the crap out of me that just drinking something straight, a gin straight is a martini. Like, you wouldn't call this a whiskey martini. It's just, or an Armagnac martini, and it's just straight.
Now we're gonna pull up the cocktail side of me where I just get real obnoxious.
Do it. Do it.
Get mean and when people sit there and like call certain things cocktails, it's like, no, this is not a martini party. This is a cocktail party.
Right.
A martini has to have these three things.
Yep.
What's the three things for martini?
Chocolate
you have
syrup.
to have your spirit, your vermouth, and your bitters.
I didn't know that.
So,
when my sister makes...
Well, then also, four things. You have to have your ice as well.
Yeah, your water for dilution.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law makes a pickled martini where she uses pickle juice, and it's pickled, chilled gin, and that's it. And,
no vermouth or anything?
I didn't know vermouth was required. I thought when you poured this is how ignorant I am when it comes to martinis. I prefer my barrel-aged spirits, but I always thought
barrel-aged martini.
If you take a martini glass,
that barrel-aged rye gin.
Copper and Kings makes a fantastic barrel-aged cask strength gin. Speaking of Copper and Kings, I'm really excited to go back to these. So I always thought if you took a martini glass, chilled it, you shake it with ice, whatever, poured in a glass, that was a martini.
Shake it.
No, I mean,
I didn't know vermouth was a required aspect of that.
Vermouth has to be a part of it. Vermouth has to be a part of it. I mean, it's commonly looked at where it's French dry vermouth, and then it's your gin, and then your orange bitters.
Sure.
Add it to it, stirred, straight up, twist, no olives.
As soon as you said orange bitters, as I'm tasting this, I'm getting a little orange.
I definitely get orange.
Citrus changed from lemon to more orange notes.
It's gonna like flip over right there. But look, anything you gonna add this to, one of my favorite cocktails with this is making an old fashioned with it.
Ooh,
it's
gin old
gin old fashioned.
Yeah,
just a style of a cocktail.
Yep.
It's this Peychaud bitters and then a grapefruit twist. Grapefruit and Peychaud goes amazing together.
Yep. What's this normally run?
This right here, you can get it in specs for $19.99.
Wow.
That's one of the benefits of making a compound style.
I'm actually.
It's because compound styles, it's more affordable for us to make it. If we were doing something differently, if we were actually going through the gin basket method and all those other things, this would come out for maybe around like $29.99.
Sure.
And then we would be with everyone else in the category of trying to go against the behemoths of the industry.
Sure.
And this way, people kind of go out, they can see it, they can understand it, they can buy it and take it home more readily than buying a $34.99 bottle of gin. Because everyone is trying to buy the $34.99 bottles of whiskey, which is hard to
still find it.
Now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
where's this at now?
Old Charter 12 year 5 years ago you could still find for about $16 a bottle. Now that in itself is an entire rebrand mode.
God damn.
Get ready for that to come out for $185 next Christmas.
$185?
I'm just waiting for it. I don't know if it's coming out.
That's probably what it'll be.
I'm waiting for Ancient Age.
It's like Boone County all over again.
Yeah.
So,
Ancient Age is going to get rebranded, and I can't wait for that.
You know what blows my mind? I'm going to speak freely for a minute. It blows my mind. So we did a Boone County barrel pick when we were in December. We went to the distillery under the pre-confirmed price of $100 to $120 a bottle for 12 to 14-year-old bourbon.
Okay.
Cask strength.
MGP.
Yep, we're happy with it.
Stuff.
Right? So that's about right nowadays. And we get there, we taste, we find out our samples are all 14 years. God. Oh, that's awesome. 14 years. Like, well, also the prices have gone up. Why are you telling us now? It took, by the way, that day it took us an hour and a half to travel.
Yeah.
Right? It took us an hour and a half to travel.
Yeah.
We sit through an hour and a half
I
tour.
changed my flight.
Yeah. And then we find out it's going to be closer to $175. Now, at the time when we picked our barrel, he kept hinting that the price had changed, and it was making me nervous. So we picked our barrel. Then I stepped outside to call the distributor and say, hey, he keeps saying things that makes me think the price has gone up. If this gets too crazy, we're going to pass on it. He goes, don't worry about it. I'll make a phone call. There's this thing that happens in the industry that anytime a supplier raises their prices, a lot of distributors will have it work into the agreement that if you decide to raise price, you have to let me get in one last order.
Yes.
So the distributor was like...
Hence all those barrels you saw with me picking Wild Turkey and Russell's.
Yeah. So the distributor's like, if they're going to raise the price on this, then I can just threaten to buy everything they have at this lower price.
Mm-hmm.
And we got confirmation that our price wasn't going to increase. And then something happened, and we got confirmation our barrel of 14-year-old bourbon was going to be $180, $175. And at that time, we just passed on it. And it even after all that, when we passed on it and announced that we were passing on it, there were still a handful of stores that were like, we still want it.
Sure.
Like, we'll take it. We'll take it at $200 a bottle.
Well, I think just recently didn't MGP announce that most of their older stocks are pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, Smooth Ambler's transitioning to getting their stuff from Tennessee.
From Dickel, yeah.
So it's like that stuff is basically gone from the world now almost. And I think, and it was very good. And, I mean, I listened to the episode you did with Evans, and he was talking about how it's like how lucky we were in
the time. We don't realize how much we.
Right.
I had the same debate with Evans about, can we get another pour of a new gin? Because this is actually very, very enjoyable.
Let's try something different. So now we're holding Seersucker Southern Style Lemonade. So it's really, this is a gin sour in a bottle.
Sure. So it's a pre-made cocktail, basically.
Yeah, pre-made cocktail. One thing that people look at this and they almost like to say, well, we never saw these before, and you're making flavored gin now, like people make flavored vodka. No, Gordon's was making this stuff back in the 1930s.
Well, Deep Eddy made it famous, right? Deep Eddy is killing it right now.
Yeah, and Deep Eddy's just going from a different method. This is not going to be as sweet as anything like that because you have the regular gin, you have clove-honey in the botanical structure. That clove-honey is already in the base gin of the lemonade or the gin sour cocktail. So it's going to have a hint of lavender to the back end. This just needs like one modifying element to it, being ice and or water, and you have a cocktail.
So I'll say this. I try to stick to barrel-aged spirits
of course,
or clear spirits, specifically ones that have no sugar in it.
Yeah.
You go to Rosewater one night, you have 5 cocktails, the next day you're hungover. Yeah. So I've always attributed dehydration and sugar content to be the reason why people get hungover. And this tastes delicious. I could find myself. It's almost like a gimlet in a bottle.
Yep.
I could.
You got your lime right there. That's basically what that is, right?
Yeah.
It's a Southside cocktail in a bottle. Yeah. This was actually made because of Harvey.
Really?
So when Harvey hit, I was the secretary for USPG San Antonio. Now I'm on the National Charity Foundation for USPG, and I got 77, maybe 80 bars. I forget how many now to take part on like Monday. I got all the chapter together saying, "Hey, let's do an event for Harvey. You got to get people out, raise money now, get it into the right hands because this is turning into a catastrophic disaster.
Sure.
So between like Monday to Wednesday, I got about 60 bars taken apart. Well, being a small brand, I started running out of money. And Shailene Lopez, at the time, she ran the state for Campari. I knew her very well because I, picked all these barrels from her. So nice. we have a great relationship, good friends. And so she came in, kind of subsidized us a little bit to help us over that final push and get some more bars involved with printing and getting menus out there. Well, like the caveat was that you either had to make a Southside cocktail, so gin, lime, sugar, mint. I mean, there is the argument that's saying it should be lemon juice instead of lime juice, but that's nor here nor there. Not time for this show. We can take it up online in correct banter style and make everything rude.
Have a good old fashioned Chris Morris argument.
Yeah, I was just about to say
that.
I was about to invoke Chris Morris.
I've met him once. He's a really nice guy.
He's a nice guy. Online, he can be the worst. He can. I love him genuinely as a friend, as a good friend. But he can be a monster.
I only meet people. I meet so many people in passing, and so it's like very much. It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Sure, meet
sure.
You. Bye.
Like
hey,
Mike G. Going back to him.
Yeah.
Couldn't be a nicer guy.
Uh-huh.
And we actually ran into an issue recently where I had an idea for a TV show, something that I was not seeing in the world of TV shows.
Dump it here. All right. So
let me just say this about this. It's very enjoyable. The sugar, it tastes so sweet and so good, savory wise, like it tastes really good, that I worry about drinking too many and then the next day feeling like garbage.
So what I always say with that, you're gonna have like about 2 ounces for a pour and top it with topo or maybe
a little topo in this would be awesome.
Dry ginger beer and ready to go.
Oh.
There's a lot more vegetal notes on this.
On the nose, for sure.
That's the mint coming through because it was made to be that. It was made to be that Southside cocktail. Because when we had that event in one night, every bar had to make either a Southside or a Negroni. We raised, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was like $80,000. We raised in one night. A bar had to make these cocktails and donate all the proceeds and all the tips from it to USBG, and then we funneled that out to all the members of USBG that applied for assistance.
Sure.
And so now
I had Robbie Cook, and Nathan Raffel on here talking about that, and they said that they'd meet a couple times a week and just approve, and there were all these displaced USBG guys that I say guys, regardless of gender.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. 2019.
I know. Jeez. You're gonna get an angry.
But they did.
Review.
I mean, there was like this community gathering that across the state that everyone helped each other out.
Like Austin had its own thing. Then we were trying to do a statewide thing. We were like, what, let's just do, the valley through like San Marcos.
Yeah.
So we got all them involved. Dallas did their own thing. But then that year, as we all remember, I mean, you had the hurricane that hit Florida. Then you had
Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Then you had the fires in California. It was like an actual nightmare.
Yeah.
When it came down to anything else.
Let me give some feedback on this real quick. Okay. So I enjoyed the lemonade, but I think I enjoy the vegetal minty notes.
I like this one
on the lime better.
It's about half and half that I've seen over the course of the year. And I mean, so if you're a bar and you're making cocktails, I mean, like you can just take this and add champagne to it and have a French 75. If you want to come,
I'm such a fan of vegetal notes, chartreuse, and these like botanicals that just kind of get infused into spirits. Have such a well received, almost kind of.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but it kind of reminds me. My wife's a massive hippie, essential oils, and every once in a while I find
my wife wants to move to a farm.
Yeah, that's my wife. Yeah. My wife wants to move to Colorado.
She's like, "Oh, Chris, you can do this." I'm like, "I can do what?"
She wants to exist in the woods, and so every once in a while we'll find like a polished rock in the house, and I'm like, "Is this a crystal? Because if this is a crystal, I want a divorce." But we like the botanical, citrusy notes, and the grapefruit smells incredible.
The grapefruit does smell incredible. It is very intense.
One of the funny things about how these were all developed was like I would sit down with Trey, who's the owner, distiller, lead bottler, all the funny things that you can think of. But I mean, he sits down and helps like replicate these products. But like I would sit on one side of the bar and he'd be on the other, and I would just shake up, a gin sour, and then shake up 50 variations of a south side, and we'd re-engineer it based on the cocktail we liked the best, and maybe like it was an eighth of an ounce more of lime juice and an eighth of an ounce less sugar. And that's what we would look at.
Yeah.
For the grapefruit, when we looked at this iteration of it, we always knew we wanted to do it. I just happened to walk on the way to go meet him, and I had some ideas and sketches in my mind of what I wanted to taste like, and I'm sure he did as well. I walked out, though. I looked to my left over my neighbor's fence, and they had a white grapefruit tree. And I went, what? Ran around, broke into their yard, stole 20 white grapefruits off.
Hit their kid, stole a grapefruit. Yeah.
But it's not something that, people really see anymore. Everyone's so enthralled with the ruby. Mm-hmm. The ruby is so sweet. That it's very almost like mono palate. That's definitely not the right word for it, so don't beat me up on the internet.
No. Yeah, the internet can suck it. This is my show.
It has that one thing. So when you have these flavored vodkas and things like that, and also you just taste sweetness and then ethanol alcohol.
Yeah.
The one thing that people don't understand with the white grapefruit was that it was the original grapefruit. Dr. Duncan created it to actually. It was made for cocktails. So when people try to make a gin cocktail from 100 years ago, they can't do it with a ruby. It has to be done with a white.
Sure.
And it's such a small demand now. And this shows the laziness of American culture because it has seeds.
Right.
It doesn't germinate as quickly. It's more expensive to create.
It's not as cost effective.
Yeah.
Which is the same discussion we had with Joe Heron from Copper and Kings when we were down there. He goes, we have all these ideas and we distill pears. We distilled, I think they tried strawberries once. Mm-hmm. It was a complete nightmare. But he said they're not cost effective, but you're not really worried about cost. If you can make money on something and not lose money on something, well then it's a win. Right. Yeah. So we did 2 barrel picks of their Copper and Kings brandy, and I was lucky enough that they sent me a couple of the private casks that we picked. So we'll get to those in a second, but I love the era that we live in which brands, bars, there's not only is there a higher educated consumer, not just HBS, but pretty much any group on Facebook has now definitely raised the bar for education of the average consumer. But bars, restaurants, distilleries, suppliers, all of them are making such more of a concerted effort towards not maximizing profits while still releasing something craft.
Oh, of course.
Right. So the fact that you guys would even go through and not take the short way out and do one grapefruit over the other is
it was very much looked at it. And that's why people can't look at something as minuscule as like the Greyhound cocktail. Mm-hmm. People think that it's just a simple 1-in-1 with vodka and grapefruit juice. Yeah. No, it was actually had to be dry gin, and it had to be white grapefruit juice. And the original recipe, it was created at where you think was a dog park.
Yeah.
So just imagine a bunch of pasty white dudes coming in from Long Island to go to the Greyhound track and lose all their money before they take the DC-3 back to LaGuardia the next day.
Yeah.
Well, coming from one pasty white dude to the rest watching,
I'm right there, man.
I have enjoyed the gin category quite a bit. When you simplify it, it may be oversimplification. A lot of gins are just essentially the original flavored vodka, but it's no different than it's an alcoholic tea, right? Yeah. It's basically what it is. You're infusing through a concerted effort of, and I've said concerted effort quite a bit this episode. I always do that. Someone
one word.
There needs to be a whiskey neat drinking game,
Nick,
where.
So when we did the Netflix thing, I kept saying zeitgeist. Like the things in the zeitgeist. And then last week, I think I did the episode, and Nick listened on a flight to New York or something. He was like, "How many times can you say vitriol in a just one good 4-syllable word, just to beat to death in an episode?" But concerted effort is this week's episode. Brought to you by the word Sesame Street.
I know. Yeah, you should do that. A little segment, educate people on the English language.
I've really enjoyed the gin category quite a bit.
It's definitely blown up across the world.
Yeah.
And
when we were in Scotland,
with the cocktail resurgence that's happened over the past 20 years,
when we were in Scotland,
and more so in Texas in the last 10, it's allow it to happen.
Well, the cocktail, like you said, cocktail resurgence, I think started the fundamental baseline. Like obviously gin is such a part of so many cocktails. And honestly, I respect a gin cocktail over a vodka-based cocktail simply because of the effort put behind it. You know, when you distill the vodka, legally speaking, it's supposed to be flavorless and odorless.
Did a lot of the
gin's the opposite?
Did a lot of the cocktails today, like the Greyhound, for instance, because I've seen recent recipes where they call for vodka instead of the gin. So have because of the American consumer, maybe tastes changed, you know, in the mid-'60s to the 90s, and it was all about vodka. Did a lot of those classic cocktails that previously used gin end up switching to vodka?
I mean, I look at two different marks in American history. I mean, well, actually, there's three. The entire 50s with like the industrialization of the American kitchen being, you know, a big element of that.
Yeah.
But then you also have OPEC.
I feel like he's like 72. One sentence away from talking about how women.
Dude, I've said many times before, I miss the 1950s.
No. Trust me, you do not want that.
No, I don't.
My wife, she's a stay-at-home wife, and she would love to be outside because you get beat up by a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old so long day long. You're hoping for that human
Your
interaction.
wife would love my wife.
I would hate.
We have 4.
I try to stay home, and I can't do it. I want to go outside and hop in front of the trash truck.
When we first got, we've been together we're in our 13th year. When we first got together, her parents raised 7 kids at home, homeschool. So she's like, I want to be that mom. I want to be the mom that takes care of my kids. I don't want to just send my kids off to some school and not spend those formative years with them. I said, okay, stay at home mom, let's do this. And we're now deep into the stay-at-home mom thing, and she's like, I would just love a yoga class, or I want to go to a brewery, or like, okay, go to a concert. She went to a concert last weekend with her sisters. I'm like, get out of the house. Like, I don't want you to cabin fever. I think I'm going to say something controversial for a second.
Oh,
there's a comedian that talks about how being a mom is the hardest job in the world.
I know which one you're talking about. Bill Burr, exactly.
Bill Burr. He's like, it's not the hardest job in the world if you can do it in your sweatpants. But it is. I'm not saying it's not. What I'm saying is it is a bit of a prison for women, and I feel I sympathize for those that are how much they're giving up. It's not so much that it's a hard job as much as it is a tedious, life-consuming, mentally robbing experience for years, especially if you have toddlers.
Sure. And I'm gonna go ahead.
There's the middle class stay-at-home mom though, and then there's the ladies who lunch stay-at-home mom.
Sure.
The ladies at lunch stay-at-home mom. Her Range Rover needs to fall into the canal.
Right.
Sure.
It's like small. You're not.
My wife gives her life up for our kids, and she spends so much time. And I'm off doing this. I'm like, honey, it's a job. Yeah. She's like, you're drinking on camera. It's not a job, you jerk. My wife's very supportive, but I sympathize for those who give up their livelihood.
I kind of can relate to that. You know, I was furloughed recently and was stuck at home for 3 weeks, and
I want to talk about this. We got to take a quick break. We're going into our 4th segment. Let's take a quick break, but I want to talk a little bit about your experience at NASA during this layoff.
Yeah,
I'm very supportive of women, but I acknowledge that you're basically, as a father, especially one that's the breadwinner, so to speak, you're asking them to give up years of their life.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
Especially during a time where they couldn't be more. As an adult, I'm fascinated in spirits. I'm fascinated in music. There's all these things that I'm enthralled with. You're asking them to give up basically their existence for 3 years.
There's like a negative connotation now associated with it too. And I mean, you know, it's easy to joke about with the comedians and everything. And honestly, obviously, and so I don't get internet hate mail, I was not at all equating my 3 weeks. I was not at all equating my 3 weeks of paid vacation time at all with being a stay-at-home mom and raising kids. But, you know, I mean, I woke up every morning and made my wife coffee and fixed her lunch and everything. So, you know, there's that. But no, I mean...
I mean, I leave town to go sell booze for 3 to 4 days at a time. Maybe fly to Nashville or fly to Dallas and go do that and be able to do things like this. And I'll call her FaceTime, like, how's it going? And all I hear is a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old
just screaming,
just losing their minds in the background. She's like, "What do you think's going on?" I'm like, and bye.
Yeah.
So I have that ability to turn it off. Yeah. She does not. So, but I mean, thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I love you.
As I said, I think
Happy
there's
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a negative connotation that could be associated with when you're like, it's like, you know, you're out talking with people or whatever, and a woman asks, like, you know, well, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And everyone's like, oh, really? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like
there's actually a guy locally who There's a couple guys locally in the group. One guy in particular, and I don't want to mention his name just to so there's no perception of judgment, but he's a stay-at-home mom and he's stay-at-home dad, and he's big in the bourbon community here in Houston. And I applaud it, but there's this trope or this mentality when it comes to a dad who doesn't contribute, and it's so interesting the sociological how easy it is for us to just be like, oh, you're a piece of crap.
Yeah,
like
you're doing. I mean, you're staying home. You're taking care of kids. You're raising kids. Yeah. So this is
made with meat.
Yeah. So exactly.
It smells like ham.
So this is a Clarin Vival. It's a Haitian rum made with sugarcane.
I love Clarin and I love Cape Perry. This smells like ham.
It's wild yeast fermentation. So you get
the mug pits.
A lot of funk in there.
Great.
So have you had the Paranuba's Oaxacan rum? Dude, it's actually good. Have you had the Paranuba's Oaxacan rum?
I'm processing this. This smells like olive hams. Olives and hams.
What I would say is like one thing. Here, put it in that glass. Let
it breathe.
Well, yeah, you need to.
Man,
these.
I think did we find something
like
that I didn't like?
Wild fermentation. We'll create this nose that people find.
I'm good. I've drank this before.
But like now, smell it now, and it's going to open up. It's going to bouquet out.
Hold on a second.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm a very easy pleaser. Like I love all kinds of foods, all kinds of spirits. This is very upsetting.
No. Hold on. But I'm going to try now. It's all about how a glass will make something. If we had like a specific glass, it's kind of like how, read like a tequila air glass, and then you'll have the Glencairn. You need something.
You're not allowed on the show anymore.
Body.
Whoa, man! I broke Chris
on now.
It's 100% olives and meat. Jack, come here. You come over here. Just smell it. You don't have to taste it.
I think I've seen that.
I should have
smell it. Just smell it. Smell it on camera so we can see your reaction. It's like olives and meat.
It is. It's very like
it's green olives, pepper, and dead ham.
Tomato maybe.
I'm glad that there is a video recording of this. We can take like so many snippets of this conversation.
Sure. Women are the worst.
This was totally worth it just to see you try this. I love sharing this bottle with you. It's not a flavor profile that I go for.
No, when you first pulled that out, I was like, oh my God.
Where'd you get this from?
I wish I brought some sugar and some lime juice.
Yeah.
And
make a daiquiri
out of this. Listen, and it would be amazing and gorgeous.
So I had at Anvil, I had a tea punch, which is like one of my new favorite things, made with the Paranuba's Oaxacan rum, and it's very similar. It's wild yeast fermentation, fresh.
Yeah, I mean, because like the Paranuba's, like where they're getting the sugar cane from, it's so close to like the citrus orchards, and
hopefully it tastes better. Not only that,
but like the tropical citrus orchards. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have mangoes all around, you have pineapples, and it's really lending itself the sugar cane from those orchards into that product.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really
nope.
You don't like it still?
Nope.
Wow.
Listen, I love you.
Hey, it's cool.
Holy cow.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But it is for me.
So. And it's not a white rum, right? It's not aged. But it's not, the color hasn't been removed. Or
That's
it has.
Right.
Yeah,
no, you can actually see there's a bit of a tint to it, and there's some floaties.
So it's aged.
Yeah.
And they remove the color. Charcoal filter out the color. That's what a lot of white rums do is they remove.
I don't think it's filtered. You can see floaties, and there's a slight tint to it. So it might just be rested in a barrel like
it tastes better than it smells.
Okay,
and the taste does remind me of Jamaican funk.
A little bit.
A little Jamaica from Plantation or,
I think I might have some bitters in here. That with some mango.
I'll tell you right now.
Like a spritz of lime.
Salted meat. Little old tomatoes. Not fresh tomatoes.
Yeah.
Old tomatoes.
Slow it down, Mr. Burgundy.
Sweet Odin's Raven. It's that is not okay.
It's worth it just for that, just to see this.
It's kind of like a toe thing, like smells like someone's toes.
Well,
Let me get something else in my glass. Listen, I pride myself on being diverse, but that is
let's move to let's wait for the let's do the Calvados.
Yeah, how about a Calvados?
I love the Calvados.
The Calvados will help like strip that flavor profile from mouth.
Oof.
So
I hope Katie doesn't see this or Kate doesn't see this because I've been fighting to get Habitation Valier here for a year and a half. And
that's not going to get out of that glass, by the way.
I'm gonna use it as a rinse.
Take the stolen rum. Same thing.
Yeah, stolen rum has that funk in it, that vegetal deathness to it.
I'm gonna use
in a good way.
Or that was that plantation, that plantation Haitian XO that NASA Liquor and Rosewater did too. Had some
Yeah,
crazy
some funk to it
as well.
The cool thing is, I mean, every town in Texas. I mean, Texas is completely different, but every town in Texas has like the chains and liquor stores like that. But
fantastic.
That liquor store is really something cool.
Which one?
NASA one.
Liquor.
NASA's definitely done a lot of great things.
Yeah,
done some bad things, but they've done a lot of great things.
I was surprised like how when I first walked into it, it's kind of like Alamo City Liquor in San Antonio or Austin Wine Merchant. Every town kind of has it, and that's one of them. It's like you walk in like, oh, cool, y'all have some really neat stuff, and it's affordable. Mm-hmm. It's very affordable.
Yeah. And I mean, their rum selection is insane. I walk past the whiskey part now and I go straight to the rum and the brandy now because of how much stuff they have. But
like the chains are great because they get all the stuff.
Sure.
And you can go there every day.
Yeah. When I'm having a party and I need to get like a big old thing of Evan Williams bonded to make cocktails with or something.
I like Evan Williams bonded a lot.
Mm-hmm. So I'll go to a big box store and get that. But when I want something more unique, I usually go to those little guys. So
I like this a lot. Did it give an age on it?
It's XO, so it's at least...
We'll tell you, I'm really glad I got the smell out of my glass.
So XO used to be 6, but I think they upped it to 10 now. At least with cognac. But this is probably a couple years old, so it's probably at least 6.
That bottle right there, I mean, because it's still from Anchor. Mm-hmm. I remember correctly, that's 6-year-old distillate at least. But it's a mixture of like 8 to 10. Mm-hmm. Because they were getting ready for it this time for it to jump up, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I usually am, but I think so.
Yeah,
but it's delicious.
Oh yeah, I
Christian Duran Calvados is
really good. Yeah. And I've been trying more of that. Obviously Rosewater has a lot of that.
Sure.
Anvil did their, I think every January, starting a couple years ago, they did a brandy month in January, and I'd go there and branch out and drink through a lot of that, and that's when I really fell in love with Calvados.
There's one, if you can find it, go to NASA, I'm sure they'll do it, or go to Specs, and they'll definitely do it for you. Eric Borderleg.
I have a bottle.
That stuff. That 23-year-old, I would trade my son Beauregard for like a week if I can get like a vat of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is incredible.
This is got this bright old kind of cut down apple note to it, right? Obviously, being Calvados, it's apple based, but this is listen. I try not to use hyperbole too much, but that Claren was rough.
Well,
this cost. I mean, the price that you're going to pay for something like this is so inexpensive for the quality.
Oh yeah,
this should
100% inexpensive.
This should be like an everyday drinking for somebody.
Have you been on a Rosewater yet with Pasha?
No, I never have. I need to. Sounds like I definitely need to.
Yeah.
Him and 8 Row Flint are they're doing this massive push towards expanding outside your comfort zone for whiskeys and bourbons. And he does all these crazy old Calvados. The one that was recently was 75. No, 65 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
65 years old Calvados at cost. So you're pouring like $30 a pour or something.
That's something that Houston's been great at. And they
at
really
cost
help
pours?
foster.
Heck yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They really help foster that
and
stuff.
The guy that's coming in to spend $30 for a pour at cost to try something that's 60 years old or 70 years old, the Madeira, 35 years old, it's $35 for a 110-year-old Madeira.
Right. That's insane.
They're also buying other stuff at regular cost. Mm-hmm. It's to appeal to the nerd. It's to get the right consumer in. You're really marketing your bar to the right people.
Yeah. Well, you are. I mean, if you look at just that area where Rosewater is, you have all the NASA guys.
Yep.
And I mean, they're the ones that are going to try it. They're the ones that are doing the research. They're the ones that want to experience this.
We're definitely we latch on to things, and
that was the beauty of working in a bar. One of the few things I really do miss is that I was able to try everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it didn't matter if the bottle cost $8,000, I'd buy it. Mm-hmm. If the bottle cost $30, I'd buy it. I had access to anything and everything. And so I was always able to experience these things that no one else could.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so now, like even being 2 years removed from the bar, even though I spend a lot of time in retail, I'm doing my own products.
Right.
And I see all these fun things come out going,
and there's been a ton of new stuff
I want to try that.
out.
Oh, I want to try that. Oh, I want to try that.
Yeah, it was cool too. Like, obviously with Pasha with the NASA connection as well. He did some cool stuff during the furlough. He did some cheap thrills type stuff on the menu, and lower price cocktails
That's
and stuff
nice.
like that. So that was nice.
Yeah.
That's
like looking out for your fellow man.
Unfortunately for me, I was kind of doing a dry January during that time frame, which actually was, it kind of worked out though, because I was actually super productive around the house since I wasn't like boozing.
Were you getting ready for the summer weight?
As much. Yeah, I dropped a couple pounds.
I'm getting ready for summer weight now. After
coming out of December, it was,
after I got out of the Marines, I never went back.
So you're a veteran.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was in the Marines for 8 years. It was fun.
This massive push towards other spirits, which I've concerted that or taken the stance that bourbon has kind of priced itself out of the category.
Totally.
You are pushing yourself towards these crazy old Calvados, these crazy old Armagnacs for half the price of mediocre bourbon. And then you got bars in Houston like April Flint and Pasha at Rosewater that are just pushing for good spirits, period.
Yep.
Regardless of cost and age. And
the beauty of that too
I
is
love about Houston so much.
Yeah, it's great.
If you develop amount of people drinking Calvados and then Armenian cognac and all this other stuff out there.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's amazing.
I bet it's good.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at like all the expats that end up like from Syria that end up going to Armenia and helping, it's for entirely different podcasts there.
Sure.
But if we can get more people drinking all these funky spirits in the world that have homes in these little small villages and mass produce them and get those out in the world, it's going to drop the price of bourbon.
Sure.
So the more people that sit there and just like latch on to one product, it's like, we're a bunch of mariners going on and killing all the dodos.
Right.
We're killing ourselves.
Yeah,
we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
But if everyone starts drinking these other fun things and experimenting, then we're going to have enough. I mean, wow, this is like I just Al Gored myself right now.
Yeah. Invented the internet.
Yeah.
We're going to go for one extra segment past this if you guys have time.
Yeah.
I confirm with Jack. We're all good. We're going to do one extra segment. We're going to get into the brandies. We can start now, actually.
Sure.
Do we have any clean, empty glasses?
We got some official whiskey glasses over there. I don't know if you want to grab them.
Yeah. So let's do this. I don't know if those are clean or not.
Oh.
So let's do this.
These guys.
We're going to go one extra segment. But in the meantime, we're gonna wrap this up now. Thank you so much for coming on. For those of you who are on Facebook, and
thanks, Chris.
Just the Facebook portion. This is going to be 4 segments. Those were fantastic. This entire thing was fantastic. I definitely encourage you to. And where you can find Seersucker everywhere.
I forgot to bring up one last thing.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, we've got one more segment. And
it's the funky thing. It's something stupid.
What's it called?
Tastes like chicken.
Yeah, tastes like chicken vodka. Listen, that tastes like ham rum, so I'm okay for the taste like chicken vodka.
People that actually know things, they're like, "You mean a Pachuga vodka?" I'm like, "No, I didn't make a Pachuga vodka. It's Americana, idiot. Sure, it tastes like everything tastes like chicken.
Yeah, you're right.
And so it tastes like fat white people. Ready? And we're gonna go, but you can find the remaining portion of this interview on iTunes, Google Play, all your podcast platforms. And in the meantime,
I don't know why I'm smelling it.
Smell it. You'll definitely get it.
Smells better than that ham.
Man, killing me.
I mean, you still vodka. This is only going to be released in bars. $8 a liter.
$8 a liter. Perfect for cocktails. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Mike. One more segment. Go to iTunes. Listen to it there. Cheers.